may look like any cornfield in Britain, but this could well be one of the most important archaeological sites in the whole country. On that mound, people have lived for thousands of years, and there's very good indications there's a large Roman settlement just under the surface. What attracted you to this field?
Not just the field, but the site itself. Originally, I'd heard a rumour of a Roman coin being found 10 or 15 years ago on the site. I actually decided to search the site on that basis and obtain some aerial photographs from English Heritage dating back to 1945, taken by the RAF. From those photographs alone, it was clear to see in the crop marks that there were some features there that could just possibly be archaeological, and I decided then to come and do some field walking on the site.
And what did you find?
The very first thing I found was flint. Now, I knew that flint tools were either Bronze Age or earlier. I had them looked at and it was verified that they were indeed Bronze Age flint tools, so I knew automatically people had been on this site.
So when did you realise there could be a Roman fortlet here?
Oh, not till much later. I carried on looking for the Bronze Age flint tools, and then the farmer actually said, well, you do use a metal detector, why don't you use that as well? And I started to find little bits of broken bronze, which may or may not have been something. What really capped it was within 6 months of searching the site, I found a totally unique Bronze Age axe, a small diminutive axe, ritual, probably used in a burial.
The Roman bit, when did that come in?
That came in during searching for the Bronze Age material. The very first thing to come out was a tiny piece of broken Roman brooch, as small as my fingernail there, and I knew straight away from experience of studying books that it was a Roman brooch, and that really kicked it off.
Now, you called the video The King's Grave.
Yeah.
Why did you pick that title?
It's a very good title. Now, the axe that I found is diminutive and ritual, a small bronze axe made to save metal. They didn't want to waste bronze, it's a valuable material. Now, this sort of axe has been found in burials, Bronze Age burials down in the south. Now, for this axe to be on this site, it's almost certainly come from a burial ground dated by the British Museum to 1900 BC, and we do have a mound in the field which we may or may not think is a burial ground. I decided that there obviously were very important discoveries and I needed to get them looked at. I contacted South Trafford Archaeological Group, who had been a member of years before. They're based in Cheshire. Through them I actually spoke to Dr. Mike Novell at Manchester University, and he actually came down for the first meeting to see the artefacts.
Well, I'm sure he sort of said, well, there can't be any Roman activity here.
That was the thought. It was highly unusual. Now, I actually revealed all the finds to him and he just held his head and said, where have these come from? Now, when I told him where the site was, the penny seemed to drop. It'd been known for years that there was something in this area, but they hadn't actually pinned it down. Now, to see these Roman finds was excellent, and they were only the first Roman finds that I had made.
That's astonishing, especially as it's still got the spring
patina
attached.
on it, hasn't it?
It's got the patina on it, and it's got the spring.
At the first meeting, I introduced Mike to the actual finds that I'd pulled up from the site. I also brought with me a map, a location map that I'd made, and I'd carefully plotted each find onto the map. Mike was astounded by the finds, and indeed the map was a great help to him. From there we discussed the site and how we were going to approach the site.
But the way I see it going this year is that if we can do the geophys and some more metal detecting survey ahead of him ploughing, or just after he's ploughed and sown, then that gives us the summer to absorb those results and put them into and to bring together the rest of the metal detecting results,
Right.
and also the test pitting, because the test bits do indicate the stratigraphy we're dealing with.
Yeah.
And then we can go back at the end of August or more likely September and perhaps use a machine to open up just a few trenches over the most promising areas and be there for perhaps just a couple of weeks.
Also at the meeting, as well as Mike, is Derek Pearce, who is the chairman of South Trafford Archaeological Group. I've known Derek for many years. Indeed, he was the first person I met in a town near to me where I actually went and helped on the first dig. And I think from that brought the love of finding more archaeology and history in the area.
Well, he's a real enthusiast, isn't he?
Oh, he's a total professional. He may only be classed as an amateur archaeologist, but he knows plenty, and he's taught me plenty as well.
So without stag, could you have done this excavation?
No, the finds are wonderful. and the location of the finds are great too, but a site of this site deserves some professional archaeology, and South Trafford Archaeological are as good as anybody to do that job.
So on the many days that you drove down the farm track to this site, what sort of thoughts went through your mind?
Excitement and a bit of intrepidation, I think. There's many times you could come to the site and spend 8-10 hours on site and actually find nothing, which was quite disappointing, but something kept making me come back, and there have been occasions where I've come back and had a wonderful day indeed.
So when you climb out of your car, what do you do then?
First thing I do is go around to the back of the car, put on my safety equipment. Now safety equipment is Wellington boots, keep you dry, dirty clothes you need because you get very dirty doing it, but you need to wrap up. Even on a nice day, if you're out on site for many hours, you can get quite exposed to the elements.
This is certainly a very open site here.
Oh, it's very open, and I've known times where I've been on this site and there's hailstones bouncing off me and snowflakes, but that's a determination. I just needed to keep going and to find these objects. I knew they were here.
Now, have you scanned the whole of this huge field yet?
The answer to that is yes and no. I've scanned most of the fields around the fort, but each time the farmer comes along and reploughs the fields, you may as well start again, because what happens is anything that's below the depth of the detector is reversed, so the next year you come along, there's new stuff to find, but you can't cover it all in one go. It takes many, many months, if not years, to cover the whole site. My most important find to date is the Bronze Age axe, the diminutive axe. 2000 BC, what more can you say? It's in mint condition and it's similar to ones found at Bush Barrow in Wiltshire. A very rare find indeed, and I think it would explain a lot on the site before the Romans arrived. This field is what we feel is the most important on the site. You can see over here, if you look, we have two defensive ditches. You see the ground sinking, rising over a bank and down again. In these ditches we have actually found Roman metalwork. If you look across here, you can see the mound slopes down towards the field at the bottom. The field at the bottom is an old floodplain from the River Bollin, which used to run across the back. This is where we found the Bronze Age axe, which is circa 2000 BC, and we feel that it's probably been ploughed down over the years, fallen over the embankment and been sealed into the silt, hence the axe being in such good condition. The finds must be recorded. That is of a paramount importance. All the recorded information is put onto a database which is run by the Small Finds Committee, and again this is a tool to archaeologists used by English Heritage and various people.
If somebody just puts it in their pocket, we'll never know about these sites.
No, and that's history lost. It'll end up in a cupboard or a drawer or even sold, and that's not what archaeology is about. As soon as I locate something that I know is important and I know from experience, the first thing to do is to mark the spot. Normally I use pegs and string and a known solid object, for instance a tree or a rock, and I'll measure from that, make a note in the notebook, take the notebook home and transfer it over to the maps.
So what happened at the second meeting?
At the second meeting I met up with Mike and Derek once again and discussed how we were going to handle the site and indeed preparations to do any excavations in the future. I mentioned to Mike about the Warburton Heritage Fund, which I set up back in 2000. I really wanted to generate some interest in the site itself and possibly raise funds with the ultimate goal one day of having a small museum or display centre. Mike thought that was an excellent idea.
I need to talk to you about an idea which I've been mulling over about your trust and the possibility of getting Heritage Lottery money.
I set up the trust because there's so much local interest in the history of the village, and I wanted to involve the local people of the village in that. It gives them an opportunity to join the trust, attend meetings, and they keep in touch with what's happening on site. There's a lot of archaeology on there, as you say, we hope, and the finds are giving that sort of evidence up.
The other classic thing to do, and we've talked about this before, the other classic thing to do is to do a time team. Go to time team. What worries me about that is that you let time team on, you lose control of the project.
Yeah.